How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about free games on Steam, and when I say that, you might be scared off thinking, oh, there's going to be a bunch of microtransactions, but no. Actually, in these, it's just a bunch of short, experimental kind of games. You know, the kind of stuff you might find on itch.io, but they're generously uploaded to a convenient place to play like Steam. So keep in mind that a lot of these might have some rough edges, might be pretty short, but they're free. What are you arguing with? It's a free game. I really think that there are a lot on here that actually could have asked for a price and just didn't. And yeah, there's a ton of variety here. So just check out the whole video and there might be some perfect for you here.
What are wheels? This is how we come into this world. Like all of us, you were born from a wheel.
First up, I'm looking at a game that's just super unique. It's called Wheelborn, and it's an indie 3D action-adventure game that was released in February 2025 by a solo developer named Alex Klexper. The hook to this one is really interesting, because you explore this ruined landscape as this super odd living wheel creature, and when you start a new game, you have 5 different distinct classes that you get to choose from, with each of their own unique specialties. And as you explore, you battle other similar creatures, gather materials, and dig up lore to what the hell's going on here. Overall, the goal here is a choice though. It's either you go the good path and build up your village, or you do the darker choice to gain self-serving power. So imagine an open zone, Devil May Cry style character action game, but your character is this really weird thing, and the uniqueness here is just off the charts. The art, the music, the shockingly solid gameplay make this totally worth adding to your library. It's a short playthrough like most of the games in this video, but as someone who touches a lot of games, I often see that as a plus. Also keep in mind that this is just a pure passion project, so it wasn't made chasing cash. It's just a weird world that was cool and someone made it and shared it with us. That level of authenticity is rare and I respect it so much. All that said, it's not without its issues. It being a free solo dev game, expect some technical jank, bugs, collision quirks, the standard early game dev fare, The one thing that I stumbled across myself though that was weird was that I found myself getting to a very late game area shockingly easy, and I would just recommend maybe sticking to ground level areas before you start to platform and reach higher areas, because you'll probably run into the end game stuff that I did just like right out of the opening. Also, it's got a bunch of ambitious systems like the choices and the complete openness to explore where you want when you want, but it just might not have enough space to breathe. It's really packed dense here. That said though, the short playtime makes replays more appealing for playing as different character classes and making different choices. Wheelborn is the kind of unique solo dev shit that the indie scene thrives on, and it's a singular vision, so it's not some focus-tested product. The concept here alone is just memorable as hell. It's an odd, charming, slightly rough around the edges game that's just critically underplayed. Nightlight is a polished, atmospheric game with clever Metroidvania touches. It was made by a student team, Luminosity, at DigiPen, the school that's known for a bunch of up-and-coming devs. Like that's where Narbacular Drop came from, which eventually turned into and was reworked into Portal. And Light Night is no different here. The craft behind this is just super impressive for a student project. Visually, it's a goddamn treat. Gorgeous 2D pixel art that creates a dark, atmospheric, abandoned world, but the hook here is the way you play with it. It's with light and shadow, and you yourself are the main light source, creating an incredible mood as you illuminate the mysterious darkness. You play as the light, a glowing ghost-like orb that can flash around and light up areas and power lamps to open up new paths. But the game really comes together when you find a suit of armor that you can possess. While suited up, you can cross spikes, but your jump is heavier. So the game becomes about navigating around both as the orb and the suit of armor to get past different obstacles. It's really simple and never gets too hard, but the levels still force you to learn the language of the layouts to get around them. Nightlight just impresses the hell out of me. For a student game, the polish is outstanding. Controls are tight, mechanics are well considered, and there's a real satisfaction when the puzzles click. And it's short, beatable in one sitting. So it could be the perfect straightforward game that respects your damn time. If you like atmospheric platformers, Nightlight is a brilliant little gem that needs to be added to your library. Alright, next up is probably my favorite free game that's on Steam, and that is Bloody Hell. It's a top-down action game that's pretty similar to something like Death's Door, but mix that with a lot more bullet hell elements and plop in a lot more Metroidvania elements. So you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff like exploring a world, unlocking new paths with new gear, all that good stuff. And while it does give you a really good intense feeling and tight combat, similar to something like Hades, this actually is not a roguelike, at all. It's a fully authored, start-to-finish adventure. Every room, every enemy placement, every upgrade path, it feels deliberately placed, intentionally designed, and it's really just a great, specifically designed journey. But in Bloody Hell, you play as an angel, who just happens to also be a chicken, and you're sent down to hell to take out some of the opposition. It really just sets a really great tone for the whole thing. The combat isn't just swinging a sword around or shooting a gun, it throws bullet hell patterns at you, and it really gets intense. And if you're wondering, like a lot of the other games in this video, this one still is pretty short, but it's definitely one of the longer games in this video. There's a full playtime here, it's gonna take you 3 hours to see it through. It's really generous for a free game. Bloody Hell feels like one of those hidden treasures that someone poured their soul into. And it's just genuinely cool, genuinely funny, and honestly, it deserves way more people playing it and maybe honestly paying for it. I think this game is really honestly worth some money. That's why I decided to pick up the soundtrack that they also have available alongside it on Steam. The devs of this one even have a sequel coming up here soon, so I'm really excited to see and support it once it comes out. Alright, next up is a PS1 style fishing game where something is off, and it is called Wretched Depths. It's a horror fishing game, and if you watched some of my videos before, in the past I've talked about a game called Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia, and I think you'll find quite a few similarities between the Wretched Depths and that one, but there are a few little tricks in Wretched Depths that make me prefer this free take on the concept over the paid Lake Ophelia. I'm a big horror fan myself. While Lake Ophelia certainly had some uneasy, creepy elements, Wretched Depths goes further down that rabbit hole to create an even more explicitly terrifying atmospheric feeling. Visually, it's deep in PS1 territory, low poly, janky, but perfect for lo-fi, spooky vibes. That old school fidelity and fog lets your brain fill in the details, always something scarier than what's actually on screen. What makes Jaws and Alien so scary. Think of the dread of early Silent Hill, but the goal here is to catch fish, and that works as you might expect. But as you play, you sell off what you reel in, and you spend that money on newer rods, newer lures, and it allows you to catch different kinds of fish and get your bait further down into the chasm in the lake that is just begging to be explored. And as you do a few loops of the fishing, selling, buying, the fish that you start to catch start to become more and more otherworldly. But the guy that typically buys your fish off of you wants nothing to do with the eldritch discoveries that you're bringing to him. So you find another person with a shadier, more mysterious vibe that wants to take him off your hands. And that's as far as I'll go with an explanation because the mystery is the major force that makes this compelling. It's yet another game that was cooked up by devs as a student project, and look, Wretched Depths isn't perfect, but who gives a shit? It's a great take on creepy fishing, which is starting to become more and more in vogue thanks to games like Dredge. So if you want a blend of mundane and monstrous, make sure you check out Wretched Depths on Steam. Next up is a gem I've briefly touched in the past, but if I'm making a video about great free games on Steam, I have to include Ascent DX. It's a tight, focused, beautiful little micro Metroidvania that punches way above its weight while also being free. It's an upgraded Love 2D remake of a Pico 8 game from my favorite dev in that scene, Johan Pietz of Apscapet. And as with all of his games, it has a gorgeously simple take on the pixel restrictions of the Pico 8 platform. It gives it this modern approach while still feeling super retro. It's going for a boiled down, straightforward take on a Metroidvania, while still going through all of the effort to make a diverse set of areas to explore. Think hyperpixelated jungles, deserts, and caves. Paired with the vibe of a chiptune soundtrack, the minimalist atmosphere just pulls you in, and it's super effective. You play as someone who crash landed on a mysterious planet, and you have to uncover these secrets and find new powers to open up your access around the world. You know, the core of the Metroidvania genre. The platforming is incredibly tight, and as you get abilities like a ledge grab, a dive move, and a dash, the movement toolbox handed to you becomes super fun to string together. It focuses on exploration and platforming puzzles while basically excising any combat from the design. There are still some little worms to dash through, but it's mostly about the mellow joy of discovery. But what makes Ascent DX so special is how much it achieves with its extremely focused design. It's a masterclass in doing more with less. If you like lo-fi atmospheric vibes, but want a satisfying short snack of a Metroidvania, Ascent DX is here for you. Time Thief is yet another Pico 8 game, but this time instead of taking on the Metroidvania genre, it takes on the top-down Zelda-style adventures, but with a twist. 60 seconds is all you have to live. Now, let me just stop you. Yes, this game is remarkably similar and might sound initially a lot like the game called Minute, but it does a few things a bit different to set it apart. Like how here the initial 60-second limit is extendable by stealing time from enemies by hitting them, and how unlike Minute's persistent items, Time Thief does it for real, and by that I mean each run is a fresh start where you have to get better and better over time and learn where you need to go and what to do. It's a high-stakes premise with a uniquely desperate tone from the first second, because your survival is on the clock. As I said, every creature you kill lets you swipe their seconds, adding to your own timer. It's a fantastic dance where every encounter feels critical. You're not fighting for XP, you're fighting for your life. The common experience you'll find yourself running into is doing the typical exploration from these sorts of games, only to catch yourself saying, oh shit, I need more time, I'm about to run out. But to fight that, the simplicity strips away distracting bullshit and keeps your focus locked on the timer and enemies at all times. The overall goal is to find 3 special keys to open up a gate. They're all hidden in different little dungeons, and getting them all and escaping in a single run is the core. So it's a solid little quest. I'm just super impressed with Time Thief. It's got that addictive one more try kind of pull, so if you're into games like Minute, where every moment is precious, or classic top-down Zelda-style adventures, you need to check this one out. Next up is Cryptis, a retro-inspired shooter that has the FPS classic-style action similar to like Quake or Blood. What Cryptis does visually is what really caught my attention. The sprites are all really neat looking. They have this like pre-rendered look to them that reminds me of the technique used in a bunch of 90s games like Donkey Kong Country or Sonic 3D Blast to bring 3D models into games on platforms that were harder to make polygons and models work like that. But in Cryptis, you're blasting your way through these atmospheric gothic arenas, and it feels authentically retro in its aggressive pace while still being really crisp. The gameplay is the classic arena shooter fare, and the goal is to simply shoot, slice, and shred everything in sight. There's a diverse weapon set, but for me, it all comes down to sticking with the shotgun. The movement is the fluid, buttery smooth strafing that you'd want at a game like this, but it does have its little dashes, and I love a good dash. The soundtrack also goes for high-octane metal and electronic vibes that get you pumped up for the mayhem. So if you're looking for a free boomer shooter, this is a fantastic option. I know that that's a divisive term to use, but I feel like as soon as there's a Steam tag, it's officially canonized as a term that we can simply use as part of the lexicon, so we better all just get used to it. Regardless, give Cryptis a look if you're into these kind of games. Next up, I'm talking about Batography, a very short 10-minute photography game that reminds me a lot of like A Night in the Woods. You play as a tiny bat with a mission to take the perfect photo of the full moon. Sounds super simple, and that's because it honestly really is. But that said, there still are a few obstacles in your way. What you'll be doing is going back and forth on the screen, talking to different NPCs that each have their little tasks for you to complete by taking photos of specific things. And when you do so and come back to them and show them said picture, they usually appreciate it by opening up one of the obstacles that's in your path. So think A Link to the Past trading quest, but it's all about using your camera. In addition to the gameplay, the silhouetted presentation makes everything feel really nice, like a nice little shadow play. It's a serene, moonlit night in a sleepy little town populated by charming animal buddies, and musically it has a simple, smooth, lo-fi synth soundtrack that's perfect to just chill out and walk around to. But look, Batography isn't going to keep you busy for weeks. It's just a really nice slice of joy that is nice to have as a treat once in a while.
You can see the relic in it, but the dagger part looks like it's about to snap off. Okay.
So it has. How frustrating. Forging a new relic takes years.
Next up is a game that slams a shot of pure adrenaline straight into your veins, and it's called Grimhook. You play as a guy who washes up on shore on a desolate beach by some flooded ruins. With your boat wrecked and being totally alone, you explore to see what you can find, and the game ends up handing you some incredible movement tools. It's a full-blown parkour-style game that makes moving through the ruins super fluid and breakneck fast. One of your first tools that you come across is this little gem that contains an ancient deity who gives you the ability to summon a mass of Lovecraftian tentacles to propel yourself across these massive chasms. And yes, using that ability does mean you're going to be looking downward quite a bit, but the feel of getting around is just so much fun. But that's just the appetizer for the movement mechanics. You also get a proper satisfying grappling hook and the ability to wall run, and this is where Grimhook really truly sings. It's all about combining all of these different abilities. You'll be chaining tentacle launches into wall runs, and flinging your grappling hook out for last-second swings through caverns. It creates this unbelievable sense of momentum and flow. If you've ever loved the feel of games like Titanfall 2 or the aggressive aerial ballet of Ultra Kill, you'll feel right at home here. The controls are tight, responsive, and when you nail a long sequence, barely touching the ground, it's really satisfying. Now graphically, Grimhook isn't really trying to compete with the latest AAA behemoth, and it humbly sticks to a visual style that's a lot more deliberate. It reminds me of some of the best stuff out there for like the 360 era, where the art direction and the clarity still took some focus. And honestly, I think that level of detail here is really concentrated where it matters, on readable environments and clear visual cues that help maintain the flow state. Grimhook in its current free form is a really short burn. You can blast through it in about half an hour, but it's such a solid, polished 30 minutes. The developers, Unlimited Fries, have talked about wanting to build this into something bigger, really a more substantial project, and what is here already is a phenomenal proof of concept, so I'd love to see them build it into that. It shows that you don't need a $100 million budget and a team of thousands of people to create something that kicks serious ass and feels amazing to play. So if you've got a spare half hour and are craving some top-tier, fast-paced first-person platforming with a Lovecraftian hook to it, you absolutely need to add Grimhook to your Steam library. Oh, and if you manage to find all the rubber ducks to unlock the golden hook, make sure you let me know in the comments. So picture this. You've played platformers in the past, right? You walk, you jump, standard stuff. Now what if you tossed out walking and the typical jump? That's exactly what the devs from Starts with Cinder cooked up. In SlashJump, you're a knight with a sword, and that sword is your only way to get around. It's both simple and tricky. It just uses 2 buttons and 1 stick. You slash at the ground, and the recoil sends you flying through the air like a pogo stick. You're probably seeing this and thinking of something like Jump King or Getting Over It, which, while being accurate, this one feels a little bit more controllable and forgiving once you click with it. It gives me more Celeste vibes once you get into the groove with its mechanics. Lots of spikes and lots of planning your path every time you're faced with a new screen. And it doesn't punish you too much, because when you mess up, you're back in an instant. The look of the game is also just solid and functional, which perfectly suits the gameplay first style game that this is. So if you want a precision platformer with a bunch of physics-based chaos to beat in about half an hour or so, SlashJump is here for you. Have you ever stared into your grandparents' attic and felt like you were peering into a treasure trove of forgotten stories? What Never Was utilizes that feeling to deliver a very short but interesting proof of concept that I thoroughly enjoyed. You play as Sarah, who's clearing her grandfather's attic after he passes away, and as you poke around this kind of escape room style game, you solve a few puzzles here and there, and it unveils that Grandpa had some secrets that really are worth uncovering. It won't take you long to get through it, but I'm a sucker for an escape room. And it's a sweet narrative that has fun slowly revealing more and more about the mystery and what your grandfather was involved in. All that said, this one very much does not feel like a full game because it was made just kind of as like the first level of a larger project, but it's a perfect little taste that leaves you wanting more. The vibes it plays on are a nostalgic dive into a relationship with a grandparent that felt really deeply loved, and the attic ends up feeling like this amalgamation of these beautiful memories of an adventurous life. Books, maps, old relics, all scream that they each have their own stories that are behind them. Each solved puzzle isn't just progress, they feel like these revelatory things to Sarah, who's peeling back yet another layer of her heritage. If you like the quiet storytelling of Gone Home, but want more like Myst-like puzzles, this is a perfect concentrated shot of just that. And it all just leaves me looking forward to seeing if the follow-up ends up happening. Slider is a Zelda-style adventure that takes place in this weird, shattered, segmented world where you get this artifact, and it allows you to slide the different sections of the world around to align in different ways so you can explore the overworld. It's an impressively simple idea that I think is just pulled off remarkably well. So yet again, imagine Link's Awakening's trading quest where you're helping out a bunch of different NPCs with little tasks, but the way that you're doing it here is that you're just aligning things in different ways. Like for example, imagine helping out a fish by connecting the river so it can swim freely to a waterfall. You know, that kind of stuff. The whole vibe is offbeat and absurd. It's really similar in style to the previously mentioned Minute or the more apt Karto. Reorganizing reality to help out a cast of oddballs is just really satisfying, and there's a constant string of aha moments that you kind of click and figure little things out. It's the perfect setup of making you think, oh, this will be simple, only to run into problems when you exponentially make things more complex by adding more pieces to the puzzle. But here's where Slider bucks the trend of most of the games in this video. There are 9 different worlds in this game. It took me about 20 minutes to just finish the first one, so it's a pretty massive game for free on Steam. It's about 3 hours long if you want to see it through to the end. The sheer amount of smart design here is just stemming from its simple core, and I am really impressed by it. So make sure you check out Slider if you want a full, free, solid puzzle adventure game. Stealth and shadows. This is my type of shit, and Shadow Burglar does not disappoint. In fact, it punches way above its weight class. The ambition of making a full 3D stealth game used to seem superhuman, but now students are able to put one together as a student project, and that is super cool. It's set in 1920s London, and you play as this carbon San Diego-ass spy with a floppy hat and all, who's trying to steal back her dead brother's paintings from a bunch of organized criminals. And you end up going about doing that by skulking around in the shadows and even melding into them, in like a literal sense. So yeah, it's pretty similar to a lot of other smaller stealth games that have been coming out in the last, 5 to 10 years. Think like the Origami series or even Erebon Shadow Legacy, but it's still doing enough stuff to set itself apart. Its dark noir vibes really add a ton of unique flavor, and the atmosphere of observing your environment and taking down mob-style goons is super fun. On top of that, the game has a ton of voice acting.
Everyone with a ticket, please get on board.
While it's definitely not the most professional, it's really admirable that they went through all the trouble. It's another short 20-minute playthrough, perfect for one sitting, and I really just like this game's mechanics. So if you're a stealth freak like me, make sure you don't sleep on Shadow Burglar. Remember that incredible Bloodborne PS1 remake that got a cease and desist from Sony? The developer behind that took those skills of working on that and made it into something truly wild and I think even better than what was there before, which is Nightmare Kart. It takes the grim, gothic, sanity-testing world of Bloodborne, but this time it does a nice IP scrub to avoid legal action, and it makes it into a wild kart racer, while still maintaining the oppressive atmosphere and terrifying creatures, although this time with more of a tongue-in-cheek tone. It's one of those ideas that's just so odd, but in execution it just works so well. We're talking the hunter gripping a steering wheel, the doll sliding into a drift, and even those unsettling little messenger guys dodging what is essentially blue shells. It's a concept that works beautifully because it commits just so hard to the bit. The devotion to that authentic PlayStation 1 aesthetic is great. It utterly nails the look and feel and the soul of the era. One thing that truly floored me though, which probably won't floor a lot of people, is just how in-depth it gets with the shader settings, and you can really make it look how you remember PS1's looking, or you can just play it clean if you want. But if you've ever got sucked into Mario Kart or poured an ungodly amount of hours into Crash Team Racing, you're gonna feel right at home with this. The core racing mechanics are tight, responsive, and instantly familiar, but on top of that, there's just the Bloodborne style items that are cleverly repurposed into these shockingly appropriate ways, like how your stamina is now effectively fueling your kart's boost, and weapons like shotguns, Molotov cocktails, and even rifles function as your item box style pickups. You even have a health bar that you have to manage, which adds a frantic layer to every race. It twists the familiar kart racing tropes into something that's just super fun to see. Nightmare Kart isn't just simple races either. There's a full-fledged campaign mode, complete with boss fights and everything. And beyond that, it's got battle stages and of course free race options where you can pick your favorite racers. It definitely scratches that Crash Team Racing nostalgic itch while still being a new, weird, twisted take. Yeah, there isn't official online multiplayer, which is a bit disappointing, but the sheer quality here for $0 is incredible. If you have any fondness for PS1 era racers or just yearn for more Bloodborne vibes, you owe it to yourself to download Nightmare Kart.
Nightmare Kart.
Alright, and that was my video on free games on Steam that I think are worth checking out. If you like the video, do all the YouTubey stuff, it really helps a ton. Recommend me other free stuff that I haven't talked about here. Definitely gonna probably be wanting to make another video like this as long as it does well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hi. You want attention? Okay.